It's kind of hard to believe when you look back on it that during the last decade of his life, after losing a lung to cancer, John Wayne went on to star in more than a dozen films, and 3 of them, True Grit, The Shootist, and The Cowboys, are among some of the best of his career. The Cowboys was done in 1972, and it starred John Wayne, Roscoe Lee Brown, Slim Pickens, Colleen Dewhurst, and Bruce Stern. Filming was done in New Mexico and Colorado, and also at Warner Brothers Studio in Burbank. The premise for the movie is really refreshing and quite original. You see, with all of his able-bodied cowhands chasing a gold strike, this aging rancher, played by John Wayne, hires a schoolhouse full of boys to move his cattle to market. Mark Rydell, who is an actor who then turned into a director and was also a student of Lee Strasberg's famed Actors Studio, was given the task of directing this movie. He wasn't known as a Western filmmaker, but he had directed 10 episodes of Gunsmoke for CBS. The other thing that made him a really important candidate for this was that he was fresh off the success of 1969's Steve McQueen movie called The Reivers. Once he began reading the yet unpublished novel called The Cowboys that was written by William Dale Jennings, Rydell knew immediately that he wanted to do the film. When he took the idea to Warner Brothers, his heart was set on George C. Scott playing the rancher Will Anderson. But the studio heads pled with him to consider using John Wayne. He ended up flying to Durango, Mexico to meet with Wayne while he was on the set of Big Jake. He really felt initially that there might be some problems between him and Wayne because Wayne was so conservative politically and the director was a liberal Jewish kid from the Bronx. They couldn't have been more polar opposites of each other. But Rydell ended up finding out that he was one of the nicest guys you'd ever want to meet. To write the screenplay, he pulled in Irving Ravitch and Harriet Frank, the legendary husband and wife writing team from the Reivers. He also recruited the Reivers composer John Williams, and he also hired the 3-time Oscar-winning cinematographer Robert Surtees. All the bad guys in the film, except the lead, were stuntmen that knew how to ride, fight, and die on camera. The director made it his mission to keep John Wayne out of his comfort zone. And he did this by not casting any of the usual characters from Wayne's stock company. And that's with one exception, that being Slim Pickens. He got most of the supporting cast for the movie from the Actors Studio. Roscoe Lee Brown as the cook, Colleen Dewhurst as the madam, and Sarah Cunningham as Will's wife. Now, the lead villain was Bruce Stern, and he was ideal for this role. He was in the process of filming the sci-fi film Silent Running when his agent called him and asked him if he had a couple of days off the next week, that he had a role that he wanted him to do. He told him not to tell anybody this, but they were doing a movie with John Wayne where he's going to be killed, and you're going to be the guy that actually does it. Probably the very biggest casting challenge they had was finding 11 boys to play the Cowboys. With a stroke of genius thinking, the director cast half actors and half rodeo kids. Before they set one foot on location shooting, they had 8 weeks of intense writing training. The actors would end up helping out the rodeo kids in learning how to act properly, and the rodeo kids would help them with the horseback riding. All of these kids absolutely loved John Wayne, but Bruce Stern, not so much. And this was all done by design. Bruce Stern said that when he got there, John Wayne approached him and told him that he wanted him to do himself a favor and also to do Wayne a favor. Around the set, I want you to kick my ass in front of these kids, so they're absolutely terrified of you. Wayne gave him the license to do whatever he wanted to the iconic Western hero. And Wayne told him, on the day that it comes to where you end up shooting me, they're going to hate you for this. Looking back on it all, men and Boys Turn to Men talk with amazement at how hard Wayne pushed himself in this movie, doing nearly all his own stunts and all his own writing. The director and Wayne set the bar on the film awfully high. And in doing so, the cast and crew did some of the finest work of their careers. Now, you always see in all these films where there's some opposition initially to working with John Wayne because of his right-wing stance and conservative views. But after all the actors work with him, they're amazed at what a great person he is and how their political differences never come into play. Roscoe Lee Brown was urged by his friends not to work with the right-wing John Wayne, and he just ignored them. And the two actors just refrained from discussing politics during the filming. They found a common interest together that they both loved poetry, and they would sometimes quote some of their favorite verses between takes. The future teen idol and singer Leif Garrett auditioned for the film, but he was turned down because he just didn't have that look, that necessary rugged look that was needed for these characters. However, a few years later, he starred in 2 westerns with Lee Van Cleef, and he also played the lead role in a television movie set during the American Civil War. Robert Carradine played the character of Slim, and he's the youngest son of actor John Carradine, who appeared with John Wayne in the movie The Shootist. He played an undertaker in that movie. He was also in The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance in 1962. Robert Carradine related in an interview that though he was only 17 and working on his first movie, he approached John Wayne and told him that he thought they were filming one of the scenes wrong and they should change it because he didn't think his character would act the way that they had it written. Wayne glared at him for a moment and just said, "You just do it the way I told you to do it." 5 years earlier in The War Wagon, Bruce Dern was on the short end of a gunfight involving John Wayne. In that movie, Dern was gunned down by Kirk Douglas as Wayne shoots Chuck Robertson. Douglas brags that his man hit the ground first, prompting Wayne to reply, "Mine was taller." Now, if Bruce Dern had ended up turning down this role as Longhair, the part would have more than likely gone to Vince Edwards, who was the star of the TV series Ben Casey. But there's no way Bruce Dern would have ever turned this role down. But that doesn't mean he didn't pay the price for it. For years and years, he received threats, and I mean some of them were fairly serious threats, for his actions in killing John Wayne in the film. And it even went farther than that. His daughter, Laura Dern, said that some of her friends' parents canceled play dates with her because of her father's role in this film. The fan base for John Wayne is pretty loyal, and they didn't like seeing their hero gunned down. John Wayne dies in quite a few films that he did, like The Fighting Seabees, Wake of the Red Witch, Sands of Iwo Jima, The Alamo, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. But this movie, The Cowboys, is the one that sticks in everybody's mind. Now, Charles Tyner, who played the stonemason that carved Will Anderson's gravestone, played another stonemason specializing in memorials 4 years later in The Family Plot from 1976. After the boys complete the drive and sell the cattle, they use some of the proceeds to pay for this stonemason to carve the marker that says, "Beloved Husband and Father." And this is a clear reference to the position that Anderson had earned in their lives. They place the marker and head for home as the credits roll. The Cowboys earned generally positive reviews from the critics. The film also received praise for its musical score, its original plot, and John Wayne's performance. In 1974, Warner Brothers developed The Cowboys as a television series for ABC. At the last moment, ABC decided to change the show's format by reducing its runtime from 1 hour to half an hour. This was a change that made it difficult to tell stories effectively with the show's large cast. Only 13 episodes were filmed before the series was canceled. Take a look back at this exceptional movie. John Wayne never disappoints. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.